There is a quiet moment many people know well, though they rarely name it. You finally sit down. The noise fades. The day loosens its grip. And instead of relief, something tightens inside you. A subtle pressure in the chest. A sense of unease that doesn't come from anything specific. Nothing is wrong, and yet something feels deeply uncomfortable. You might reach for your phone. Turn on a screen. Start planning tomorrow. Anything to interrupt the feeling. Not because the feeling is dramatic or overwhelming, but because it exists at all. Because being alone with it feels intolerable. From the outside, this avoidance looks ordinary. You're just staying busy, distracted, logical, calm. But inside, there is a familiar tension, the sense that your own emotions are something to manage, control, or push away as quickly as possible. This is where the quiet recognition begins. Not everyone fears external chaos. Some people fear their internal world even more. The question often forms slowly, almost reluctantly. Not, "Why do I feel so much?" but something more unsettling. Why do my own feelings feel like a threat? Why does sadness make me angry at myself? Why does anxiety feel like a failure instead of a signal? Why can't I just let emotions exist without immediately trying to fix or silence them? For many people, emotions don't feel like information. They feel like danger. This isn't because those emotions are unusually intense. It's because, at some point, feeling became unsafe. Emotional intolerance rarely appears out of nowhere. It is shaped quietly over time, through experiences where emotions were not welcomed, understood, or helped. Environments where feelings were dismissed, minimized, punished, or met with discomfort. Not necessarily through cruelty, often through absence. A child who learns that sadness makes adults withdraw begins to swallow it. A child who is told to calm down, toughen up, or stop overreacting learns that emotional expression leads to disconnection. A child who senses that their fear or anger overwhelms others learns to turn those emotions inward, where they become harder to manage and easier to judge. This learning doesn't happen consciously. It happens in the nervous system. The system learns that emotions disrupt connection, that they create tension, that they are something to avoid if you want to stay safe, accepted, or in control. As an adult, this shows up in subtle, everyday ways. Anxiety appears, and you immediately distract yourself. Sadness arrives, and you criticize it. Anger surfaces, and you rush to explain it away with logic. You may pride yourself on being rational, composed, emotionally independent. But underneath that composure is a constant effort, the effort of keeping feelings at arm's length. There is often a specific kind of frustration that accompanies this pattern. You don't just feel emotions, you feel irritated by the fact that you feel them at all. You might think, "This is unnecessary," or "I shouldn't feel this way," or "Other people handle this better than I do." Emotions become evidence against you, instead of messages from you. Over time, this creates a strange internal split. One part of you feels. Another part monitors, judges, and suppresses. The more intensely the first part tries to speak, the more forcefully the second part tries to shut it down. This is why emotions can begin to feel overwhelming even when they aren't extreme. Not because they are too big, but because they are not allowed to move. They get stuck in the body, circulating as tension, restlessness, numbness, or sudden emotional spikes that seem to come out of nowhere. There are moments when this dynamic becomes especially clear. Someone asks how you're doing, and you answer quickly, efficiently, without checking inside. You experience a wave of sadness late at night and immediately open something to distract yourself. You feel anxious before a decision and start researching obsessively, not to understand, but to avoid feeling uncertain. In these moments, the goal isn't clarity. It's relief from emotional contact. What's often missed is that this avoidance is not a personal failure. It is an adaptation, a strategy that once made sense. For many people, there was a time when emotions were handled alone, when there was no one to help regulate them, no one to sit with fear without trying to erase it, no one to hold sadness without rushing past it. In those moments, the system learned something essential. Feeling alone with emotions is dangerous. So it found another option: suppression, distraction, control, intellectualization, anything that reduced emotional exposure. This is the deeper mechanism behind emotional intolerance. It isn't hatred of emotion. It's a fear of being overwhelmed and unsupported at the same time. At the center of this pattern is a belief that often goes unnoticed. If I allow myself to feel fully, something bad will happen. I will lose control. I will fall apart. I will become too much. Or I will discover something inside me that I don't know how to handle. This belief doesn't announce itself loudly. It lives in reflexes. In the way your body tenses when emotions rise. In the way your mind rushes to explain, minimize, or escape. The pivot point comes when you see this clearly, not as an abstract idea, but as something lived. When you recognize that your discomfort with emotions isn't proof that you're weak or broken. It's proof that you once had to manage feelings without enough support. This realization can be strangely quiet. There's no dramatic release. Just a pause. A sense of understanding that shifts the relationship you have with your inner world. You may begin to notice how quickly you move away from feelings, how automatic the avoidance is, how familiar the self-judgment sounds. And instead of immediately correcting it, you simply observe it. This observation is not indifference. It's the beginning of safety. When emotions are no longer treated as enemies, they begin to change. Not because they disappear, but because they are no longer trapped. They can move through instead of building pressure. This doesn't mean emotions suddenly feel pleasant. Some still feel heavy. Some still feel sharp. But they stop feeling catastrophic. They stop feeling like threats to your identity or stability. The internal question shifts. Not, how do I get rid of this feeling? But, what is this feeling trying to tell me, and why does it scare me so much? In this space, something important happens. You start to see that discomfort itself isn't the danger. The danger was being alone with it, without language, without understanding, without permission. And perhaps for the first time, you realize that the intolerance wasn't about emotions being too strong. It was about having to carry them without help. The closing truth is simple, but it lands slowly. Emotions don't become frightening because they are intense. They become frightening because, at some point, they were experienced in isolation. Understanding this doesn't force change. It doesn't demand courage or discipline. It simply allows you to sit a little longer with what you feel, not to fix it, not to analyze it, but to recognize that the fear around emotion has a history. And that history matters. Because beneath every avoided feeling, there has always been the same human need, not to feel less, but to feel accompanied.